So let's explain the text without having the text. This is very practical. Now, in the Gorgias, Callicles at one moment is going to interrupt Socrates and criticize him very sharply. It happens in the Gorgias. It's a dialogue in which the topic of the dialogue is rhetoric. And Gorgias explains Socrates why rhetoric is a marvelous art and why he earns so much money by teaching rhetoric. So there is the discussion between Gorgias and Socrates. And then there is a discussion with another sophist whose name is Polus, or Polos, as you like. Because of the following matter, Gorgias told Socrates that rhetoric is a marvelous art because it allows somebody to speak about any topic, any subject, even without knowing anything about this topic. For instance, the one who masters rhetoric, the one who masters rhetoric can speak about medicine better than a doctor, because he knows the art of speaking and the doctor doesn't know it. So in front of public, in front of court, in front of an assembly, the one who masters rhetoric will always win in a discussion against the one who is specialized. Even if he doesn't know anything about medicine or law or something else, the one who masters rhetoric will always win in a discussion because he's knowing how to convince the others with the speeches. And so at what point, there are several turning points in this dialogue. At one point, Socrates says to Gorgias, and then what is the subject, the topic about which the rhetoric is dealing, on which the rhetoric is dealing? And Gorgias answers, rhetoric is dealing with justice. I'm teaching the way of discussing, of speaking about justice in order to convince the others. And so Socrates says to Gorgias, but look, Gorgias, do you think you could teach somebody to speak about justice if you don't know yourself anything about justice? Is it possible to teach people how to discuss about justice, how to speak about justice without knowing justice? And Gorgias says, well, I guess I must know something about justice. So he acknowledged that it's not possible to teach a speech about justice without knowing justice. And but earlier he had said that rhetoric is a marvelous art because it allows anybody without knowing even anything about a subject, about a topic, to win against another in a discussion. So Gorgias had himself, he has changed his mind. He couldn't acknowledge that he doesn't know anything about justice. So he changed his mind. And at this point of the discussion, there is another guy who is there, whose name is Polos. He admires very much Gorgias. So he's interrupting Socrates and says to Socrates, you are really somebody not educated, because how you could dare tell Gorgias, ask Gorgias if he knows something about justice or not? How dare you ask this question? You are an insolent, you are not respectful. And so the discussion continues between Polus and Socrates. And I don't remember why the topic of the discussions changed at this point. The topic of the discussion between Polus and Socrates will be, is it worse to inflict injustice to the others, or is it worse to suffer injustice? What is the worst thing? To be unjust to somebody else, or to suffer injustice? And Socrates pretends support the view that it's worse to be unjust to somebody else than to suffer injustice. I'm not going to explain you why, but this is a constant position of Socrates. And then there is a third person who will interrupt Socrates, and this is Callicles. And Callicles attacks Socrates, saying, look, Socrates, you are just a declaimer. You just say things but you just try to say things to embarrass the others. When it was about Gorgias, you embarrassed him because you forced him to acknowledge that he must know something about justice, to teach the way of speaking about justice. And then to Polus, you succeed to embarrass him because you were using a trick. But Polus didn't notice you use a trick. And what trick did you use? You speak about justice in different meanings. So, because there are two, you are speaking about justice according to the law, or justice according to nature. But you didn't tell Polus, and he didn't see you are just making, you are just playing with the words. So you change the sense of justice without informing Polus, and that's why you have, Polus had some difficulties. The truth is you are just a vulgar declaimer. You are just changing the signification of the words without telling the others you are doing so. That it means that justice has two meanings. It depends on what we consider as justice according to the law, according to the human law, or what we are considering of justice according to the nature. And then Callicles explained there is an opposition between the law and the nature. This opposition, we saw it before when we spoke about Antiphon, the Sophists, and about the other Sophists. They are always opposing law to nature. So Callicles says there is an opposition between law of nature, because what is just according to the law, to the human law, the law of the city, is unjust according to the nature, and vice versa. So Callicles goes further and explains, according to the human law, it is bad to inflict injustice to the other. It's bad to inflict injustice to the others, and you are punished for it. This is according the human law. You are not allowed to inflict injustice to the others. You are not allowed to kill anybody else, to steal anybody else, and so on. So according to the law, the worst is to be unjust to the others. This is the worst. This is what is bad, what is the worst. But according to the nature, it's very different. Because in the nature, it's the one who are inflicted injustice to the others, who are the best. It means what is beautiful according to nature, it is to inflict injustice to the others and not to suffer injustice. Callicles says, in the nature, what happens, it's worse to suffer injustice than to inflict injustice, because it is how the nature works. Just look at the lions. They are killing the cows. Look at the other animals. It's always the strongest animals who are winning, and this is the way it happens in nature. So it's just the contrary of the city, because in the city, there are laws which are made by the weakest. The weakest are afraid of the strongest, and they make laws to impeach the strongest, to inflict harm to the others. They are afraid of the strongest, so they edicted laws which will not permit the strongest to inflict badness to the others. But in the nature, where there is no human law, it's just the contrary. The strongest are winning because there is no human law to impeach them, to inflict damages to the weakest. And this is how the nature works. This is how the animal nature works, but this is also how nature works in human relations. Because look, if you examine how it works, how it happens in international relations. In international relations, it's the strongest who wins. It's the strongest who is the leader. Look, for instance, the king of Persia, of the Medes, whose name was Xerxes. He attacked Greece, but he attacked Greece on which name? On behalf of nature, because he was the strongest. And so it's true in the in the animal nature that the strongest are winning against the weakest, but it's true even in human relations. In international relations, the strongest are winning on the weakest, and this is nature. He says this is, for instance, what Xerxes, the king of Persia, made. And he says, he adds, there are other examples. Because we are in the Gorgias, we are at the end of the 5th century, after the War of Peloponnese. And during the War of Peloponnese, there was, it happened something. There was an island whose name was Melos. And this island of Melos didn't want to make an alliance, neither with Sparta nor with Athens. she wanted to remain, it wanted to remain neutral. So the ambassadors of Athens came to Melos and told the governance of Melos, you have to submit yourself. You have to submit. If you do not submit, we are going to invade your island, kill the man, and deport the women and the children. And we have the right to do this because we are the strongest. This episode is told by Thucydide in the War of Peloponnese. He explains what was the motivation of the ambassadors of Athens when they came to this island. They said directly, we are the strongest, so we are deciding what we want, and you just have to obey. And so Melos remained neutral, and then Athens invaded Melos, killed the men, and deported the children and the wives and the women. What happens? So when Callicles says in his speech, look what happens in international relation, for instance, Xerxes, and there are other examples. The other example is the example of the island of Melos, what Athens did in Melos. So now I haven't the text, and this is a pity, because now in this text there is a turning point. Because in the beginning of the speech, Callicles says, okay, there is a difference between what happens in nature and what happens according human laws. According to human laws, it's bad to commit injustice and you are punished. And the weakest are protected by the human laws, because the weakest are making the human laws, and they are protected against the strongest. Because, you know, Athens, this is a democracy. So it's the demos, the people who are making the laws, and they are weak. And there are some strong people in the city, but they cannot do anything because the demos is making laws in order to protect itself. So Callicles, in his discourse, he doesn't speak about Athens, but he thinks about Athens, which is a democracy. Now, so it's an attack against democracy and against the law, of course. And why it is an attack? In the beginning of the speech, Callicles just say, well, there is a difference in what is beautiful according to the human law, what is good according to the human law, and what is good according to the nature. But then there is a turning point. He says, and what is good according to nature, this is the natural law. This is the right of nature, this is the natural law. So he's changing the way he expresses himself. He spoke about nature, what happens in nature, and then he says, what happens in nature, this is a natural law. The law of the strongest, this is a natural law. This is the right of nature. And what must happen, it is that the natural law, the right of nature, must triumph in the city. So the strongest have to take the power and to reduce the weakest to a slave state. So the problem in the city, the weakest are ruling, but we must overthrow the democracy, and the strongest must take the power and decide for the others, and like it is in nature. So in the second part of his speech, Callicles slides from an opposition between nature and human law to an opposition between knowledge right of nature or law of nature opposing the human law. So in the second part of his speech, he is legitimating what happens in nature. He says this is the justice. The justice which is expressed by the law of nature, it is that the strongest are winning against the weakest, and they are pressuring the weakest. So this is another excess to which the sophistic thought led. It's not the same speech than Thrasymaque. There are differences. But you can understand that this speech, this Callicles speech, is very strong, very dangerous, and very actual. You have the same speech today, since 2 weeks. Mr. Trump is just the Callicles of the 19th century. And the events just the same, you know. All these people who think because they are the strongest, they can humiliate the weakest. You invite Zelensky in the Oval Office, and the guy says, hey, Zelensky, how do you dare? How dare you come into the Oval Office, attending a meeting with the president without wearing a tie? Who do you think you are? And then Trump says, Zelensky, you have nothing to say. You have nothing to say. You have not the cards in your games. Just shut up. What is this? You started the war. You are responsible. You will carry a responsibility if there is a World War III because you are guilty. All this is untrue. This is just rhetoric by the strongest. And then, of course, Zelensky couldn't defend himself. He was humiliated. He couldn't defend himself in an appropriate way because he endeavored to speak in English because he was polite, but English is not his native language. So he chose to speak in English, but he couldn't master the discussion. It's very easy when you are facing somebody who is whose native language is Russian, because Zelensky, his native language is Russian, not Ukrainian. It's very easy to humiliate him and speak in your native language, which is English. And on Sunday, there was an interview of Zelensky in BBC, and this time he spoke either in Ukrainian or in Russian. I don't know if he spoke in Ukrainian or in Russian because I saw this interview on BBC. It was after the meeting of the European meeting in London. And I cannot say which language he chose because he can express himself very well either in Ukrainian or in Russian. But there was a translator, you know, so I heard only the word in English. But at the end, it was time to end the interview, and an English journalist asked something to Zelensky, something like, what do you think a ceasefire with Russia won't lead to anything because Russia will attack again in 2 years? And Zelensky smiled a little and he said, "Я всё знаю." It means in Russian, I know all. So I guess he was speaking in Russian at the beginning and not in Ukrainian. Я всё знаю, this is Russian. It means I know everything. So when he was in the Oval Office with Trump, he chose to speak in English because he was polite. And then this Trump and this Devance, this scumbag Devance, sees the opportunity to humiliate him. That's all. And this is the way, this is just Callicles, you know. We are the strongest, we are doing what we want. You have to make a capitulation with Russia, you have to give up your territories, and then we are not going to help you. We don't give you arms. You have to give back the money we gave you. And, we gave you 300 milliard of dollars to help you. This is not true. We, Europeans, we gave the most of the money. This is not true. We, the Europeans, gave the most of the money, and we don't ask it back. And now Trump is saying everywhere that this guy Putin is a fine guy, and we can have an agreement together. And then yesterday, Mr. Trump said on TV that he wants Greenland. He wants Greenland just as Athens wanted Melos. It's just the same. Because we are the strongest. Greenland is an island. Melos was an island. It's just the same situation. Yes? Would you repeat your question, because you have not any microphone, so I don't understand. He rehabilitated the Sophists in the 19th century, yes. No, it's not. I'm not an expert of Hegel, I must say. I know much better Kant, for instance, but in Hegel, it's not a question of what is good or what is bad. He's just trying to build, he's just trying to show how the developing of the thought follows a rational plan. The developing of the thought of the thought in the history is just a plan of the reason. So he just wanted to say that the Sophists were necessary in this developing. They had to be, and they had to die too. So he's not speaking about Callicles or Thrasymaque, but because these are not the orthodox sophistic thought. These are excesses. So Thrasymaque is a sophist, but what his speech in Republic is not the traditional way of the sophists to express themselves. When you have the sophists like Protagoras or Antiphon, they are opposing law to nature. They are opposing human law to nature. And they are saying that human law is just something artificial. It's just the will of the lawgiver, the lawmaker, yes, but the lawgiver, according to Protagoras, the lawgiver, the lawmaker, has to make laws according to the common utility of the city. There is a negative aspect in Protagoras' thought. It is that there is nothing such transcendent definition of justice. There are nothing such metaphysical definition of justice. This is the negative aspect of Protagoras' thought. But the positive aspect, it is, we must reconstruct, rebuild a moral ethic which is found on the human, which is not metaphysical, but human. So it's not because there are no transcendental justice, transcendent justice. It's not because there are no truth by itself. Man is the measure of all things. It doesn't mean that the laws must not have a goal, must not aim to the common utility of the city. But the common utility of the city is just a pragmatic goal. is not metaphysical. This is what he means. In Protagoras, the human is the foundation of the thought, and it is the scope of the thought. What he rejects is the truth by itself and the metaphysic, but he doesn't reject the idea that the laws have to be in the common good of the city. But with Thrasymaque's, it's something else, because if we take the speech, Thrasymaque's speech, we remark at first, what we remark that Thrasymaque's is not opposing nature to law. He doesn't speak about nature in his speech. He speaks only about the human laws, and said the human laws are made in the utility of the strongest. This is just what he says. It's just you know, I told you, this is the philosophy of it's not philosophy, it's just a statement. The people who are in power, they are just making laws in their own interest. So there's no opposition between nature and law. So Thrasymaque's is not expounding the real meaning of sophistic thought. It's something, it's an excess. He's making an extrapolation. Now, Hegel doesn't deal with Thrasymaque's, he deals with the sophistic thought in general. So the aim of Hegel's aim in his lessons of history of philosophy, it is to show how the philosophers' thought were needed to the developing of the reason. So the sophists were important. They had to appear in Greece, and they had to die also. Because what happens with Plato, Socrates, and Aristotle, they showed that the sophistic thought could not find an issue in anything. It was just the subject which was important for the sophists. It means man is the measure of all things. And they rejected all metaphysic, all transcendence. And so they didn't manage themselves to found a real philosophy, a real thought. And they had to disappear. This is what Hegel explains. But he explains that they were very important, nevertheless. They were the masters of Greek, he said. But, you know, as I told you before, maybe Hegel is, he thinks that the philosophy is something retrospective. So philosophy, it means you explain how the things happened. The things happen necessary. He says somewhere in the philosophy of right, he says the philosophy comes always too late. The philosophy comes always too late, because the philosopher, he comes when the things have happened. His task is to explain why the things which happened had to happen like they happened. He is to explain why it had to be like it was. So the philosophers, they are coming, the real philosophers, they are coming when the period of history in which the philosophers are coming, usually it is at the end of the civilization. They're coming at the end of the civilization to explain why it had to happen the way it happened. That's why the philosophy comes always too late. I'm not going to explain too long Hegel because it's very complicated. And so when he says the sophists were important, it's not a way of saying that the sophists were fine or not fine. It's not his purpose. He just wants to show that they were important in the history of the thought. In the developing of the reason, they were important. That's all its purpose. It's not to legitimate the sophists as they would defend values which were better. This is not his way. He wants to show only that they were important in the development of the reason. Because what happened after Plato, Aristotle and Socrates, it was that the sophistic thought was forgiven, forgotten. So because of Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, the sophistic thought was forgotten. It was considered as nothing important. And it was considered for nothing important because of Plato, Aristotle, and Socrates, and because we have not the writings of the sophists. For instance, if we speak about Protagoras, he wrote a book, The Truth, which title was The Truth, but we have not this book. We have always this sentence, very famous sentence, man is a measure of all things, but we have not the book. So it was easy for them to fall, to be forgotten, because we had not a book to refer to them. And what happened in the 19th century with Hegel and other thinkers, it was they were rehabilitating sophists because they understood that the sophists had a great importance in the development of the thought. There was a positive contribution of the sophists to the development of the thought, which was before Hegel neglected. But this is not a problem of who was right or was not right. This is not the problem. For Hegel, it doesn't matter if it's Plato, Aristotle, or the sophists who are right. This is not what he wants to show, to explain, in how current of thought is important in the development of the reason. Did I answer your question or not? I tried to answer, but so is it you who asked me a question by email? The other time a written question about Hegel in email and answered to this question. Now, if we come back to the speeches, Callicles' speech and Thrasymaque's speech, there are some difference. There is a first difference. Thrasymaque was a real character. He exists. He was a sophist. We have some fragments of his works, not only the speech in the Republic, but we have fragments of his works of himself. And Callicles, the only place where we hear about Callicles, it is in Plato's dialogue Gorgias. So there is no other work in which Callicles is quoted. So most of the scholars think Callicles was just an invention from Plato. He invented this character in the Gorgias. So Callicles was not a real character. It didn't exist. It was just imagined by Plato. And another difference, it is that Thrasymachus is a sophist, but Callicles in the Gorgias doesn't present himself as a sophist. He said he followed the sophist lectures, and then he turned himself to social success. He just followed the sophist lectures in order to understand how to realize his ambitions and his passions. He is not interested in philosophy. He is not interested in theory. He was just following the lectures of the sophists because he thought these lectures could help him to succeed in the social society. So it's just somebody who wants to exploit the sophistic thesis for his own purpose. And it appears that Plato probably concentrated in Callicles all the defects or the dangers to which the sophistic thought could lead. He invented this, he invented this character to show how sophistic thought could be dangerous, because Callicles, this is a very dangerous man. There is not another work or text in the history of philosophy with a character which is so violent, who is so immoral. And what Plato wanted to show with this character is the danger of the sophistic thought. It could lead to fascismus. This is fascismus. Nevertheless, it's very actual. Putin, Trump, they are just they have Callicles as ancestor. So what we say about this, and then we are going to take a break, and I hope I find somebody who can repair this computer. What we see in this Callicles text or in Thrasymachus text, it's see how the Greek thought is very actual, because the problem were the excesses we read in Thrasymachus' speech and in Callicles' speech is just what we are now seeing in France now, or in Europe and in the world. When Trump calls the Prime Minister of Canada a governor, this is Callicles' speech. The weakest decide, the strongest decide, and the weakest. And there are no laws because laws are made by the weakest. So we have not to respect the law, either the internal law or the international law. Because now we have international rules, which did not exist in Greek times. We have international rules. But international rules are just for the weakest, because they want to protect themselves against the strongest. And what the strongest must do is to reverse this international law and impose as law their will. No regarding how many people are going to die. Trump doesn't want to help Ukraine. Well, it's the Ukrainians who are going to pay this. They are going to receive bonds thanks to Mr. Trump. And they are discussing about the tie that Zelensky should wear when he comes into the Oval Office. This is a tragedy. You know? It's unbearable, unbearable. No, I'm recorded, but it doesn't matter. I'm telling you. We are still in democracy. I don't know for how long, but we are still in democracy. So we have the luck. We can't say these things. And it could be sometimes we won't be allowed to say these things. Okay, we take 10 minutes breaks, and I'm going to try to find somebody to repair my computer. So we didn't succeed to repair the camera, but maybe it's a trick from a Russian agent, because I have a flag of Ukraine in my shirt. So they want me to be filmed from far, because they don't want my how we say in English, my ribbon to be seen. Я все знаю. Now Mr. Trump wants to take the rare earth of Ukraine. This is just we say in Russian, we say crash, stealing. Because he's like Callicles. I don't think he read once Callicles, but he's just behaving like Callicles. But Callicles had not the power in the city. He wished that the strongest are going to take the power and overthrow the democracy. That was his wish. Now, as I said, first difference between Thrasymaque's speech and Callicles' speech, it is the authors, because one is real, Thrasymaque's, the other is an invention, fictive, yes, fiction, probably fiction. The second difference, it is that they are not telling the same story, because one is just pretending to make a statement, and the statement he makes, it is that the rulers who are governing are always making laws in their own interest, and this is the fact. This is, this is the philosophy of the Gilets jaunes. We pay more taxes, and the rulers are earning more money. I'm paying taxes every time. I'm paying my petrol more expensive, and meanwhile the Ukrainians are given hundreds of millions of euros, and this is the money that Zelensky steals to us, the French or the German. This is just so. In this, this is just a statement, and in Callicles it's not a statement. In Callicles it is how I would say a normativist speech. It is a speech of somewhat a lawyer. He says there is a law, a natural law, which must prevail in the city against the human law of the democracy. So it's more, Callicles' speech is more ambitious, because he doesn't make a statement. He wants somewhat a revolution, a fascismus revolution. But as a matter of fact, the speech of Thrasymaque's speeches, I don't know if I can show it. There's no way to show it. Maybe I can show it on the blackboard, but it won't be recorded. You see something but I have to make it the letters are too small, and I don't know how to improve this. Do you see now? So now, if we take the speech of Thrasymaque, there are 3 parts in this speech. I wanted to tell you to read this speech for the exam. I think it's important to have read once the speech. Unfortunately, I cannot put on Zoom, but you have on the blackboard, on the screen. And there are 3 parts. The first part, it is that, as I told you before, Thrasymaque says the law is the utility, the interest of the strongest. And then there is a first problem, because I remind you, Socrates says that who are the strongest? Is the strongest Polydamas, who is a wrestler, or somebody else? And so Thrasymaque answers, the strongest, it is the one who have who are ruling the city, the government. Because Thrasymaque's definition was lack of precision, because he said the strongest, he didn't define the strongest. And then there is another problem. He said the interest, the utility of the strongest. But what is the utility of the strongest? And this is another question Socrates asked. He says, now I have understood that the strongest are the rulers of the city. But now, what do you mean that they are making laws in their own interest? Suppose they are going wrong. They think it's their own interest. It's not their own interest. What do you think? And Thrasymaque says, well, they can mislead themselves. They can think they make law in their own interest, but as a matter of fact, there are laws which are not in their own interest, because they are making a mistake. They think it's their own interest. It is not their own interest. So Socrates says, well, if I understand you well, Thrasymaque, justice is the interest of the strongest, but it can be also the interest of the weakest, because when the strongest are making mistake and they make law in their own, they think the law is their own interest, but it's in their own, in the interest of the people who are governed, of the citizens. Well, it's just the contrary. So there's something in your definition which is not clear, because you pretend that justice is the law of the strongest, and you told us that the strongest are the rulers of the city. But when the rulers of the city are making law which they think are in their own interest, but actually are in the interest of the citizens, the one who are governed, you told us this is also justice. So justice is one thing and it's contrary. It's not a definition of justice, because justice can be the interest of the governance, but it can be also the interest of the people who are governed. When the governants are making laws they think are useful for them, but as a matter of fact, actually are useful for the citizens. So this is not a definition, because justice, according to you, means one thing and the contrary. So this is a starting point, a turning point, starting point of the second part of the Thrasymaque's speech, because he has to improve his definition. And he improves his definition in the following way. He says, it is not what I meant. I wanted to say that a ruler, a governant, is only a governant, a ruler, when he makes laws in his own interest without making a mistake. So if he makes laws in the interest of the citizens, instead of making laws in his own interest, he's making a mistake. He's no more a government. He's just like a calculator who would make a mistake in calculating, or a doctor who would make a mistake in treating a patient. You can call a doctor a real doctor when he's treating his patient well, he's giving the good medicaments. But if he's making mistake, he's no more a doctor. You can call a man a calculator when he's calculating exactly. If he makes mistakes, he's no more a calculator. Now, with a government, it was the same. The government is a government only when he is not making mistake. If he makes mistake, he's no more a government. So justice is what is in the own interest of the governance, and the governors are not making mistakes, because when they are making mistakes, they are no more governance. So if they make law in the interest of the citizens, they are no more governance. It's just stupid, you know, you understand. So there's another discussion at this point, because Socrates says, hey, you say the art of governing, it is to make laws in the interest of the governance. Yes, I said this. So tell me, generally speaking, what is the scope of an art, of a technique of an art? What is the excellence of an art, the scope of an art? Is it the interest of the one who is practicing the art, or the interest of the person to which the art applies? I mean, for instance, this is almost a sophistic discussion, although it's Socrates who is speaking. For instance, take a doctor. When he is prescribing remedies to a patient, does he prescribe remedies to the patient in his own interest as a doctor, or in the interest of the patient? When a doctor prescribes remedies, it is in the interest of the patient, not in the interest of the doctor. Do you agree, Thrasymaquus? Yes, I agree. Now, let's take the captain of a ship. When he's commanding the ship, does he command the ship in his own interest, or in the interest of the ship and the sailors? Well, of course, when he's commanding a ship, it's in the interest of the sailors and in the interest of the ship. He doesn't want to wreck his ship. So now let's go to a horseman. When a horseman is educating a horse, does it make it in the interest of himself as a horseman, or in the interest of the horse? Well, in the interest of a horse. So, Thrasymaquus, you acknowledge that in all these examples, the excellence of the art is to be applied in the interest of the subject to which the art applies. Yes. So you agree to say this is the case in all arts? Yes. So let's come back to the art of government. So you agreed there is a general rule that the excellence of an art, it is to be to scope the interest of the subject to which the art applies, and not the interest of the person who is practicing this art. So the art of governing is just the same. So it means that the governors, we say in English, I guess, the rulers are making laws in the interest of the citizens which are governed, to which the art or government is applied, and not in their own interest. Do you agree or not? Well, there is a silence, of course, because everyone who is hearing the speech understands that the definition of justice of Thrasymaque has been refuted, because he explained that the art of governing is the art of making laws in the interest of the governors, the rulers, and he had to acknowledge that in the truth, an art, whatever is this art, is in the interest of the person to which this art is applying. So if we speak about the people who are governed, the art of government is in the interest of the people who are governed and not in the interest of the government. So that's the end, you know. So at this point of the speech discussion, Thrasymaque says, you know, Socrates, you are very dirty because you do not clean your nose. You should have asked your mother to clean your nose because you are dirty. You are disgusting. So just insulting because he doesn't know how to escape to this discussion. Just, you know, it's just how the politician they are making. You are doing to you. There's a question and they don't know how to answer, so they try to gain to have some time. So they say something, no matter what thing, just to have some time to answer. That's what happened, and then this is the end, the third part of the speech of Thrasymaque. He comes back to his first idea. He says, well, give me a break with your definition of the art of governing, because this is not the topic. What for do you think that shepherd has sheep? Sorry, he has sheep in order to eat them, not to help them. So this is like the art of governing. And he comes back to the reality, you know, because he was trying to go to get a theoretical definition of justice, saying that the real ruler is the one who makes laws in his own interest. And he must come back to the statement. He says, as a matter of fact, what happened in reality? The rulers are making laws in their own interest. What they call justice, it is justice, what they call justice is injustice. He says justice is injustice is just the same. Justice is according to the point of the people who are governed. What they call justice is just that the people who are governed are giving everything to the people who are rulers. And injustice for them is justice for the subjects. So justice is just you are justice. It is you are acting in the interest of somebody else. Justice is acting, behaving in the interest of somebody else. Somebody else. The rulers are calling justice the following thing: the subjects the people who are governed are giving everything to the rulers, and this is justice. Because it's injustice. It is injustice for the rulers because they take all, the winners take all, you know, the song. Huh? It is justice for the citizens who are giving everything. And I tell you, Socrates, who are the clever? It is the rulers. The citizens, the subjects, they are just naive. They are just stupid. Because they are convinced that they are just when they are giving everything to the rulers, to the tyrants, to the tyrants, to the people who are ruling the city. And what is nice in the real world is injustice, that the rulers are taking all and the which one who are governed are oppressed. So in the end of Thrasymaque's speech, there is an anticipation of Callicles' speech. He's not only saying now that justice is the interest of the strongest. He's saying that this is nice. This should be like this. This is the reality, but the reality is nice. What is what must be how is the English term? Lauded? No, lauded? How would say loué in English? So, loué in English. Loberet. Louder. Louder, you're sure? What should be praised. So I found it. What should be praised is injustice. This that should be praised, because injustice, it means that the strongest are taking all from the weakest, and the weakest are the people who are governed. So at the end of Thrasymaque's speech, it's no more just a statement. Sorry, it's no more just a statement. It is the praise of injustice, and by this way he's announcing Callicles' speech. So yes, there is a difference between Thrasymaque's speech and Callicles' speech, because Thrasymaque's speech at the beginning is just a statement. He says how the things are actually happening. But in the end of the speech, he rejoins Callicles. So he's announcing Callicles. Now, because when he says that injustice is better than justice, this is what he says in the end of his speech. He suggests, he doesn't say, but he suggests that the law of the strongest, there is a law of the strongest which should be praised. And this is what Callicles says. Now, there is another difference between the two speeches, nevertheless. It is that Callicles is attacks the democracy. He says, in a democracy, the human law is made by the weakest. While Thrasymaque attacks the law in general, whatever the political regime. He says it doesn't matter if it is a democracy, an oligarchy, or tyranny, it doesn't matter, because in every regime, it's always the same. The rulers are making laws for themselves. So it's a critique against all the regimes, because it's just a popular conception of how the things happen. But Callicles, he has a more precise purpose, because he wants to criticize the law of democracy. He says the people should not rule. The strongest must rule. So this is a normativist speech and not only a factual speech. But although there are some differences between the two speeches, they rejoin themselves in the critique of the law of the city. So these two speeches were given by Plato to show the danger of the sophistic thought about justice. Have you any question? Is it clear or unclear? You want me to come back to some explanations? So I can show you the end of the Thrasymaque speech. You see, you will see it's very revelating. Oh. No, this is here. This is the last part of Thrasymaque's speech. So this is Socrates who speaks. When we had got to this point in the argument, and everyone saw that the definition of justice had been completely upset, because Thrasymaque explained that justice is the interest of the strongest, of the rulers, the strongest, who are the rulers, and Socrates showed him that the art of governing, it's the art of governing in the interest of the people who are governed, the subjects. So now, when we had got to this point in the argument, and everyone saw, you see it in the screen or not? You want me to make it, it's enough, or you want bigger letters, like this? We had got to this point of the argument, and everyone saw that the definition of justice had been completely upset. Thrasymaque, instead of replying to me, said, "Tell me, Socrates, have you got a nurse?" "Why do you ask such a question?" I said, "when you ought rather to be answering." "Because she leaves you to snivel and never wipes your nose. She has not even taught you to know the shepherd from the sheep." "What makes you say that?" I replied, Socrates says. "Because you fancy that the shepherd or neither fattens or tends the sheep or oxen with a view to their own good, and not to the good of himself or his master. And you further imagine, this is not the reality, you just imagine that the rulers of the state, if they are true rulers, never think of their subject as sheep, and that they are not studying their own advantage day and night." So he comes back, to facts, to statements. That was the beginning of his speech. And then he wanted to give a general definition of the art of governing. And he would be fact by Socrates if he lost the contest. Socrates showed him, he was inaccurate. So now he's coming back to his previous statement, that what happens actually, what actually happens. So it's like the situation is like the shepherd with his sheep. And you so entirely astray are you in your ideas about the just and unjust, as not even to know that justice and the just are in really another's good. And this is very important. Another's good. What Thrasymaque is saying, it is that justice, it is the interest of the others. It's allotrios, we say in Greek words. Allotrios, it gave autrui in France. So the one who is practicing justice, who is just, he's just in the interest of the others. He's just naive, he's stupid. Justice doesn't pay. This is the lesson. Justice doesn't pay. You lend money to somebody, it doesn't give you the money back. And you say, well, I was nice, and this is what happened. So next time I'm going to borrow money and don't give it back. It will be the same, because justice doesn't pay. Why should not we cheat in the exams if nobody surprises us? We are just not cheating because we are afraid we could be caught. This is Gyges' tale. You know, Gyges was, we talked about Gyges last time. So, but if you can be invisible and cheat without being remarked by the one who is in the room, why would you cheat? You ought to cheat because it's better. So it's just the same speech. You are make justice. It's the interest of the rulers, and the rulers. Justice and the just are in reality the interest of the ruler. And, justice and the just are in really another's good. That is to say, the interest of the ruler and the stronger, and the loss of the subjects and the servants. And injustice, the opposite. For the unjust is Lord, for the unjust is Lord over the truly simple and just. You know, the one who is just a knife. But the one who is mastering, it is the one who is unjust. He is the stronger and is subject to what is for his interest, and minister to his happiness, which is very far from being their own. It's time. I think I have to wait a minute. What is the time exactly? Well, still 1 minute. Consider further, most foolish Socrates, that the just is always a loser in comparison to the unjust. In private contracts, so in private contracts, you have to make extortion, you know, and to do some contracts which are not equal. Huh? Secondly, in their dealing with the state, when there is an income tax, the just man will pay more and the unjust less on the same amount of income. And this is nice, this is fine, you know. Observe also what happens when they take in office. And then he is saying about the injustice in a large scale, when the governments take all as winners. And this is fine. These are the wise men, and not the one who is making justice. He's making justice just in the interest of the winners, the rulers. And this is fine. This is what it should be, and this is what it is. And this is this end of the discourse is just fascismus. It announces Callicles' thoughts. Callicles speech. So you are free, and I hope I make some improvement with the camera for next time. So do you think it was clear or not? Yes, it's very actual, you know, it's very actual. The lessons of Greek times is now. Thanks. See you next week.